Hello. Hello. Greetings. Good morning, good day. I have been playing guitar until about 1 minute ago. And then I hopped on the computer because I thought I was late to start the stream. And then I started the stream 2 minutes early. Amazing. This week on Indies Under the Knife, the theme is logistics and automation, which is a wonderful combination of words because it sounds really boring if you don't like logistics and automation. But if you're the kind of sicko that really likes an automation game, then hopefully we've got something here for you that is going to excite and entice you. We've got Crystal Rail we're checking out, and we're also checking out Truck City. One of these is a game about rails, which are made of crystal, and the other one is a game about a city made of trucks. And I've also got a playtest ready for a game called Main Sequence, which is a space sim factory. So you're building an industrial empire in a sort of space. And that one is not installed. I thought I'd pre-installed everything this week. I thought I'd nailed it, but I hadn't. So I am going to check out Crystal Rail first. And let me know what you think. As always, the whole point of these streams, and one of the reasons why I started doing them as streams instead of videos, was I really like to see what people in the chat have to say about these games as well. Whether the developers show up and are part of the stream or not, they're often going to watch these back. I'm sure there are some developers that submit stuff just because they want a bit of exposure, which is funny because my audience are mostly game developers and they haven't played a game in 3 years because they've been in a dark room tattooing the A-star pathfinding algorithm on the back of their eyeballs with a needle. And but yeah, there are plenty of devs that submit their game because they genuinely want some feedback and to see how people react to it. And that means that your feedback is just as valid as mine. I know it's a hard world out there. Everyone wants a YouTube guru to come and be an expert on things and tell them what to do. We all want that in our life, but it's just not realistic for certain things, like, for example, making a video game. One person's perspective on it is never going to be total or totally helpful. And that is why I really value everyone who shows up and gives feedback on the games they see in the chat as well. And yeah, thank you for your service, joining in that way, because I think that's really helpful. One of the reasons, and another reason why I do things this way, is it's kind of a workshop model. If you were on a university course, a good university course, in a sort of creative subject, in an art and design subject, or in music or filmmaking, you would do these kind of seminars where you show each other your work and you learn how to give and take. You learn how to give and take criticism. And that's not just about toughening up, although that is part of it. It's also about learning to articulate your thoughts about design or whatever creative thing you're doing. And I know that there are lots of you out there who come more from the engineering side of things, more from the computer science side of things. Maybe you've done a little bit of that where you come from, but in education around arts and design, there is a lot of this kind of thing. And, you know, we all have to accept that we have subjective tastes and subjective takes on things. I'd never encourage people to think of game design as a science, because it's not. You are dealing with really subjective stuff and human experience and everything. But giving and receiving feedback is a really important thing to do, because it allows you to learn to verbalize how you think and feel about things, and that will generally make you a better designer, I think. I want to say I know, but it's early in the morning. I'm not feeling that cocksure today. I think I used up all my irony tokens on this channel's audience in the last week, so I'm feeling earnest today. Right. They've got a Kickstarter running. They've built a Discord. This is all... This demo version of the game does not have persistent saves. Okay, fair enough. I think that's reasonable in a demo version of something. My initial reaction to this from a creative direction point of view is I really like the idea of this kind of, I think they called it crystal punk, this world where everything is made of crystals and glass. It's very pretty. It does make me wonder if we're going to have any visibility issues with everything looking the similar or same or whatever. But let's see how we get on. And okay, start game. Exit in this position in menus is usually used to go next, with the exception of cultures that read right to left. But the bottom right of the screen is usually where you put your next button. So you're going to have people accidentally exiting the game because this is here. Putting start in the middle, fine, whatever. Story or Royale? Okay. I want to do roguelike. I enjoy roguelikes and strategy. Okay. The problem with this choice, as a mode choice, is as someone that just wants to quickly check out the gameplay, I would be tempted to check Royale because I sort of don't care about the story in a new game when I first start playing it. I want to see if I like the game first before I get bothered with story. So this choice feels difficult because I don't really understand the choice I'm making. If I choose Royale, will there be less story content? Because if that's what you're offering, then that's what I want. But I suspect it's not. I suspect it's just a difficulty setting and they both contain story. So I'll go with story for now. Again, just thinking out loud about what goes through my head personally when I see these kind of things. Select a story. Okay. To build a train. An apprentice designer dreams of building the ultimate crystal train, a dream that may soon slip away. So these are sort of scenarios. Okay.
Gears are greased, ready to depart. When I was young, they took us to the cliffside to see the new crystal rail. We waited for hours for the first engine to arrive. I'll never forget when it reached us. The moment I first thought, I want to make trains. Her
Good.
load-bearing potential is great. A fine test run, in spite of her lethargic pace.
Dawn creeps into the overcast clouds lurking above Greasefish Shallows. Light drizzle rains down on its colossal workshop where Greasefish engineers are waking to start their routine. One has been up for hours, an ambitious designer returning from a test run of his latest concept. It's dawning on him that he may be running late. I'm really enjoying the world building that I've seen so far. That last little bit of intro was really snappy, really quick, and having the character state, I want to build trains, is great, because what you're doing here is aligning the character that we're playing as or playing with the ideal player for this game, right? Great. So far seems like quite a light touch in terms of world building. There's enough here for people that want that, but it's not it's not too much. We've got some sort of visual novel type stuff. I'm choosing reflect. He strokes his moustache, his mind keeping pace with his train. He continues to reflect all the way to the workshop train lot. Okay.
The gear work could be more efficient, surely. I shall have to draft a new design.
Junior, the workday started almost a half hour ago. You were testing a design of your own creation without or seeking approval.
The Greasefish pulls the train back. Okay.
I shall return to the design room promptly.
Junior, you are not going back to the design room.
Okay.
I'm moving you to the assembly station.
Having this text visible and available while the characters are talking feels confusing because I have a temptation to try and read this, and that's going to make me miss the story. I also feel like this is a little bit too much of this visual novel choice stuff before I know what the game is. So I know I've been talking a bit, but if I hadn't been talking, this would be 2 or 3 minutes before we actually get to what the game is. Just allow people to do the core interaction of your game before all of this stuff, I think. It's good world building. It's neat. I like the setup. But I want to quickly get to the point where I can see what I'm actually doing, what the decisions I'm making in the game are outside of that story stuff. Okay. We've got a reputation score. And we're trying to exceed the score of our supervisor. So, okay. You don't need to do it for story modes. Okay. Not all story modes need you to do it. So we're playing a game against the supervisor.
As of this moment, I am naming you my apprentice of train car assembly.
Yes, sir. I am at your disposal, and I am pleased to serve in the workshop in any way.
Very good.
We'll have a go.
Create a train with 3 or more movement. Okay.
The assembly process is straightforward. Our workshop will provide an assortment of train cars. Select the ones which suit the needs of our clientele.
Drag cars behind the engine to purchase them. Submit to present the train to the client. Cars confer different effects. Movement represents how far our client's train can travel. Okay. So... Canteen, crew car, tender. For each car in front of the car. So that goes at the back.
This should augment their movement nicely.
That improves adjacent cars.
This car will not affect their train's movement. This car will not affect their train's movement. This car will not affect their train's movement.
Oh, okay, because I chose that and it... Right, I can't put that back once I've selected it. And, I can't put that back when I've selected it. I can't really see what I spent to get this.
This car will not affect their train's movement.
So far, I'm having a bit of a bad experience, and I'm not sure whether it's the core of the game or something that's been set up for the tutorial. We're... Okay.
We ask favors of our clients to obtain train cars. You, as an employee, will have free access to them, and the client shall proffer favor to you.
Okay.
At the end of your shift, you will pass on half of your accrued favors.
This is the favor icon. That's what you spend.
This is how the workshop is run, just as our forefathers did.
Okay. So favors are the equivalent of like energy in most deck builders where you can't play everything you've got.
Mind the order of the cars in the train, Junior. It can make quite the difference.
Okay. So that's giving me a strategy tip to say, you know, the order that you put the things down on the train matters. This is a really interesting mix of things because the visual design of this is very pretty. The interface is generally quite well laid out. But from like a kind of UX point of view, we're doing lots of like, here's some text to look at, and now these characters are talking and you should listen to them, and it's like a little bit piled on top of each other. Interesting. Okay, so I click continue, that highlights that, and then I click on next. Create a train with 6 or movement. Try different orders. Okay. Yeah, I already worked out that I can try the different orders because the tooltip at the bottom tells me what they all do. So the strategic element of creating different orders, I get that. Is every train car... Yeah, every train car costs 1 favor. Okay. So... I can only afford 2. So that one gives 2 movement and -1 for each car in front of this car. And... So that should be at the back. No. You can't undo it. I really don't like the fact that you can't undo it. So you can only put them on the train from the first carriage to the last. You can't, like, position something in 3rd place and then fill the gap, which is very annoying. And once you put something there, you can't take it off and put it back here. There are also, like, not really any kind of sound effects to show these kind of clicking into place as you move them around, which it's like, that's the... To me, that's the most important tactile interaction in the game, is that, you know, what is the player doing? Okay, take away all of the visual novel story selection stuff we've done, which has that nice plinky plinky glass sound. What is the player doing? The player is playing a like a board game type thing where they draft options from a pool into a tableau of things that they want to do. The only physical action the player is taking the things from there and putting them there. I can't undo it, even though it's a really important decision. And it just doesn't have any, like, sound or anything. You know, that I would have had a shadow, I would have had a sound. It feels like there's been loads of effort put into this game in strange places. And I would have felt like the UX of doing this fundamental thing that's really important would have come first. Right, I do seem to be able to change the order of them now. So I can change the order of them, but I can't put them back. Yeah, I would have a sound effect for when you pick stuff up and put it down. I would have a sound effect for switching the order. And I would have the ability to put things back. It feels like the core interaction hasn't really been worked out and polished before all of this other stuff has been built up around it. And the visual novel stuff is really polished and far ahead. With that one issue of, you know, why is a character talking to me while there is some other text on the screen? That kind of stuff. Okay. This is -1 for each car in front of the car. So this one goes at the front. And if at the train's end, double effect capacity of the car on the right. So that goes at the end. That's the best order I can put those in, I think. And then it's 7 out of 7 movement. So we've reached the goal of getting 6 movement. I think the problem I'm feeling with this is that if you've got a board gamey type thing or a card gamey type thing and you're interacting with playing pieces, whether they're cards or blocks or stuff, I really think that all of the game feel of that should be settled on and made to feel good before you get to this stage, before you're doing, like, commercial demos and asking people to wishlist a game. I say this over and over again, but I think people need to polish their game at the prototype stage in the places that matter before they start considering it a commercial project. Because they've built up so much here. Like, we've got flashy animations, voiceover, like celebrity voiceovers. We've got a YouTuber's voiceover in this somewhere. And, like, the basic thing of interacting with the train pieces is missing key elements. It's missing sound effects. It's very dry.
Not to worry, sir. Our task is not yet complete. Junior, secure one of our anti-grav dry scenes. That should lessen the weight.
Okay. If the car's weight exceeds the train's weight limit, the train's movement decreases. Certain train cars can reduce the train's weight. Okay. So we can only go up to 2,000 weight, and we're trying to get 5 movement. Okay, so
This car will not affect their train's movement. This should This car will not affect.
Okay, I'm just going to put them all down.
This car will not affect their train's movement.
So two in front of this car. And what I'm going to say now is going to be annoying because it's not something you can do anything about because you've polished the art assets so much now. But I kind of feel like the game should be going up to the top right so that you're dragging things from a pool here and bringing them down. Because like these are my options, right? And they're sort of taking up a strange place on the screen. So we've got the center of the screen where you generally try and focus the main thing the player is doing in the middle of the screen, and then the further the eye has to travel from the center of the screen to other things is like, okay, this thing can be in the corner because we only look at it once every 30 seconds. But the stuff that I'm supposed to be mainly interacting with is all sort of congregating down here in this bottom right corner. Okay, 2 movement, -1 for each car in front of this car. Adjacent cars weigh half as much. Okay, so put that there. And can I put that there? Okay. Adjacent cars get 50 capacity. Okay, so that's not going to improve the train's movement. I don't think the error message that Greasefish is giving me really kind of communicates the problem here. Because he's basically saying, you don't need to put that down because we've already reached the movement score and we've hit the weight limit that we need to do. Makes me wonder why it's there. But yeah, you could sit down with a list now with this and go, okay, what are all the interactions that need a sound effect? Trying to put down a train piece when you can't. Need some sort of mild negative sound effect to let you know you can't do that. Swapping between things needs a shuffly sound. Putting something down in the first place needs a sound effect. I would even have a little bit of screen shake when you put the trains down initially. If you think of like a city builder where you are placing buildings down, obviously if it's a simulation, it's a bit slower, you know, characters come and build the buildings. But generally, you have this big when you place things down. And I know to a lot of you that sounds like polish, but polish on the core interactions of your game should come quite early. Because players can't really, like playtesters can't really properly feed back on how a game feels and plays if you haven't given them like a core that feels like the core of the game. And this is the core of the game. It feels like it's missing a lot, and if you look at the game, the state it's in, it feels like an illustration-driven game. We've got a very, very competent illustrator, some really neat ideas about world building, some decent writing, and what seems like good game design in terms of just this being a card game where you do sort of like a little order puzzle of working out which order to put these cards in, which is they are effectively cards. All of that seems really neat. So it's surprising to me that the feel of the like weight of the cards as you interact with them isn't there, because that would be higher up my list of priorities than having story or voiceover at this stage in the project. I'm going to go back and try the mode that's not story mode and see what we get out of that. Yeah, Sean in the chat, I agree with that. So it's kind of like you've given me that third car to play around with. Let me fail. You know, let me fail and let me learn by failing, because that's fundamentally how games work, right? Games work because they have a short retry loop, and you can just fail, and then you learn by going, oh, that's why I failed. Obviously, the game needs to communicate why you failed, but if the game stops you from failing and says, don't do that, you'll fail, then you're actually kind of failing to capitalize on the thing that's good about games, which is that they teach themselves through the way that you fail, and the way the game then shows you, look, you failed, and you failed because of that. Royale mode is an arduous mode which requires learning a lot about Crystal Rail in a short time. Yeah, okay. Please, let's go with that. Okay. I'm going to be Tarpan. He looks like a cool guy. To the Tarpan, no hoof is too big and no favor too small.
I'm leaving the farm, pal. I won't let you down.
One of the other things I would say is that I'm playing this on a reasonably big screen. I don't have a massive screen, but I'm sat quite close to it because it's a PC, and I have a I don't know how many inches this is. It's like 40 something or 50 something. There is a tendency to push everything up to the edge, and I think there is a lot of stuff that is pushed right into the corner when it could be brought in a little bit. So I think sometimes it pays to treat it like there is a dead zone around the edge of your UI. Now, in a very reactions-based game like an RTS, you can kind of afford to have your UI in a strip along the top and the bottom, because you're trying to maximize the amount of space in the middle where the player can look into the camera and see the game world, see the what we call the diegesis in media studies, the fictional world of the game. But in a game like this, you have control over everything. So, you know, like Slay the Spire, you have control on every device of, you know, how far apart the characters are and how much space there is either side of them, because it's totally artificial. It's like you put everything exactly where you want it. I think there's a tendency sometimes to like push everything right to the corner and push the UI all the way around the edge, because you want to like use up all the space and make sure that the kind of world is in the middle. Where you don't need to do it in a game like this. So I'm kind of like craning my head around the screen and okay, this is what I'm trying to do. There is some sort of ranking of characters. Rank first on 10, 12. Okay. I feel like this mode might be a better representation of what the game is than going through the story tutorial. But let's see. Yeah, so, yeah. I DWN in the chat said this is incredibly polished in some ways and oddly undercooked in others. I wonder what kind of feedback the dev is expecting to get. Yeah, I get games a lot like this where it's kind of like the game feels like it's been rushed into full production, and there's so much polish gone into certain areas of the game, and other areas of the game should have been polished much further before you even decided that it was a viable project and went into full production. I see this so much. And it's just like, I would, if you're making a game that is like both a game and a story, right? It's not a story game. It's not a visual novel. It is a game that is, you know, predominantly a mechanical game. And then you want to add a story to it. I feel like the core interactions in that game should be really fixed and polished before you start piling in story. Otherwise, it gives the impression that you're just rushing to get a complete game and get it out there, rather than make something of high quality. And like I said, 75% of this is reading really well with me. I like all the effort that's gone into the visuals. I like all the world building. It's intriguing.
Should be good for a train car too, right?
But there are just sort of interaction and UI things that I really think should have been further along before this got so polished. For each passenger carrying car, 10% reputation gain.
One of them cars behind our engine. No wrong answer.
Okay, I'm trying to read. Like, I'm literally hovering over something and you're interrupting it with okay, no additional effects. So that's a passenger car, and that gives a chance of gaining reputation. Okay.
Oh, that's a beaut. We're full up. Time to get a move on.
The net said the buttons are all very pretty and in the wrong place. Yeah. I'm just going to shrink myself down a bit because I'll move myself over here so you can see the next button. Select a route. Okay, we're sending the train on a route now. That's cool. Click on a route, then click depart. Train continues until it is out of movement.
Where to, partner?
Right. So this is the goal of building the train, right? We build the train, it gets an amount of movement, and then we send it on a route.
North, into the mountains, or seas to the south, or we can stay central. Anyone do, I'm sure.
Keep getting interrupted. You build up the movement of a train and then you send it on a route and then something happens. Now, there's a chance that the story tutorial we played has already been through loads of revisions with members of the Discord and stuff, and they came to the conclusion that that was the best way to show and explain the game. But we went through multiple scenarios of building a train and didn't get introduced to this, which is like, I don't know, like think of like the simplest game you can think of. Think of a Mario platformer. You do the platforming in order to achieve the goal of finishing the level. And most people who play Mario are going to finish a level in the first 5 minutes, and then they understand everything about the game. They understand that I do this in order to do this. That tutorial story thing gave us so much story content and made us build 3 trains, and then we didn't get to this page. And the purpose of building trains is to do something on this page. Right? It's like... And then I think they really need to reconsider these kind of character interjections, because I know I'm talking over it, which is different. But if I'm... This is like design psychology stuff, really. And also just like respecting your player's ability to pay attention to things. If I'm hovering this over... and I'm reading those tooltips over on the right, and I'm trying to make sense of what to do, and the character just pipes up and starts saying something, and even if that thing is supposed to be encouraging or helpful, you've broken my concentration now, and you've made me slightly annoyed with the game, right? And for me, that's quite conscious, because I think about these things a lot, because I'm a game designer, but for players, it will be subconscious. Every time you kind of make the player screw their brain up and go, ugh, you are giving them a bad experience that they won't necessarily consciously know about, but it will rub off poorly in your game. And every time you... and making things hard to read is a really bad one for that. There is a book called 100 Things Every Designer Should Know About People by Susan Weinschenk. And it is full of these really interesting little cognitive psychology type experiments and stuff. It's mainly for web designers, but game designers should read it as well. And one of them is... there's an experiment with a basketball court, and the participants enter the basketball court and they get given an envelope with a message on it, and the message says, try to score a 3-point throw. And they present the message differently so it's more or less legible. And the people that got the less legible version of the message were less able to make the 3-point throw. And this is tested with like hundreds of people to make it sort of statistically valid. And so what that indicates is, if you present people with an instruction and you make it hard for that person to take in because you've used a bad font, or you've interrupted their reading with a sound, or you've visually overwhelmed them when they're trying to read, that will negatively affect them psychologically, and then they will be bad at the thing that you've asked them to do, right? That is like one of the most insightful bits, like psychological experiments I have ever come across when it comes to games, tutorialization, and UX. And what it really boils down to is, when you are giving people information and they are new to something, you need to narrow down the channel as much as possible and remove as many confusing things that are getting in the way as possible. So having a character pop up and start talking to the player when they're in a position where they're in a new overwhelming screen and they're trying to read stuff, not great. If you want to interrupt the player's experience with tutorial pop-ups and characters talking, that is why you darken the screen or you hide elements and you and you make sure that the talking is what we're focusing on now. But ideally, you're not going to do that in a situation where the player has already got to a screen and is looking around and trying to learn things for themselves. Because, you know, I'm the sort of player who is going to look around and read these things and try and work it out for themselves. And you've put me in a situation where I've had a few seconds to do that, and then you've interrupted it, right? So this is bad UX design. Again, beautiful art. I like the idea. We take the train cars, we build a little combo with them, and then that determines what happens on this screen. But there's lots of bad UX design here, and the tutorial story thing, the other mode that we played, seems really poorly paced in terms of front-loading loads and loads of characters talking at you and stuff like that, and not getting you to this point of the game quick enough. Okay. It says day and night. It says there's a day and night thing related with these, but the information is right over there rather than next to the station, which is kind of strange. So we're at Tarpan Green. This is where we're starting from. And we've got 3 movement. So we pick one of these, and it shows us which places it goes through. So we've got 3 movement. We can go through the southern line, which goes through Greasefish Shallows, the Dole Hill, and Great Oaks Forward. The central line goes one further, but misses out Dole Hill. And the northern line is the same, but goes through there. And I don't know what most of these keywords mean when it says the day and night choices over on the right-hand side. So I'm just going to go with the animal I like. I'm going to go with the burb at the top, because I want to be friends with that burb. And that is the sort of reason that people will use. When I'm playing like engine builders and stuff like that, early on, I will just go, I'm making a fire guy, and I'll pick all the fire stuff, and I'll pick entirely thematically. Because that allows me to just learn the game by vibes, and then a couple of hours in, I can start to look at the numbers and the stats and stuff like that. I don't know how many other people play games like that, but that is generally the sort of process I go through when I'm learning a new game. Click load to fill your train with passengers, mail, or crystals to deliver. Stations have limited supplies. Okay. Doing some worker placement type stuff. Loading some passengers.
All aboard. I always wanted to say that.
Okay, that felt a bit like busy work. I'm not sure what the choice was there. After you act, opponents' teams act. I'm alright with us not choosing every point of the route. And also, actually, if we chose it in 3 steps, we probably would have had the same choices. So it's just simplifying it. Yeah, it does have the aesthetics of a Supergiant game. The profit diamond shows how much capital you gain for each commodity delivered. Check them under the unload button at each station. Okay. Unloading. Ugh. Feels a little bit I think if I'm playing on a board, I want to see the board more as a board. It's the kind of game that I would really love to have just played it as a tabletop simulator module first. Because we got a board game, and sometimes it's sort of hiding the board gaminess of itself. Part of that is because we're jumping between these like full screen menus all the time, where everything has like its own distinct full screen thing, and you can't see how it relates to the board. After your last stop, your reputation multiplies your capital. After this, the team in first gains 10% reputation.
Hey, not a bad first day.
Okay. So that's the modifier, and that's the score, I think. feels better having pop-up screens or highlight the items. It's all contextual, isn't it? Like, highlighting stuff in context is going to be more important when it's more related to each other, because you need to show one thing and then show another thing. Every station has unique night abilities. Yep, okay. I saw that on the previous thing.
You mind if we stop by home? Just for a bit. My mom serves soup to the needy each night. If we lend a hoot today, somebody gonna be real thankful tomorrow.
Okay, so we get a favor for that. We use a spend a favor to get between 1 and 3 favors. Tomorrow night, once per turn. Okay. Have I done that? It's not always clear which things are things you're supposed to click on. Any station visited in the day can be visited at night. Visit as many as you want, then click the thing to end the night. Okay.
You wanna prance around town or call it early? Get some shut eye.
So I can go. Although this is the route I took, wasn't it? It was down there and then up there. Okay. So let's see what we've got. I can add a train movement for a favor. I've got 1 favor to spend, basically. So favors are kind of like action points, really. We're doing action selection across all of these things.
I ain't never seen so many fancy letters and drawings in all my life.
I'm gonna get some reputation from the bird people.
Let's head back.
Let's do it.
Got another early morning ahead.
Getting the reputation early seems important if it's a modifier that keeps growing, so let's get that early. And then I've spent all my favors, so I'm done. I think I would like it, as it's a board game, if the board was more consistently there, and when you kind of click on options and they come up and it's like, it's more sort of a window within a window on top of it. I think it's like we click into something on the board and it just goes to a whole totally different screen. And it's really not selling the physicality of the board game part. It's almost like it's trying to hide the fact it's a board game. And I don't think that works. And it's the same as, like, I've said this before with card games. The point of putting in cards in a video game is that they are a thing that people understand from outside of video games, right? So we call that a heuristic of, like, a thing that helps you understand another thing. So cards in a video game, they don't need to be cards, right? But we make them look like a deck of cards, and we make them behave like a deck of cards because that helps players to understand how they work. And when they see a deck of cards, they understand that there is a randomized set of things, and you're going to take something off there, and you're not going to know what you get until you take it off there. There's all of these behaviors that we map onto the physical object that we're then replicating in the game. It's kind of, if you know what affordance theory is it's this idea that the design of objects, you look at an object and you sort of know what it's for based on how it's shaped and stuff like that, or, you know, its relationship to other objects that you've seen and used. And we do that with cards. And when you see, like, a really bad video game card game, the cards don't look or behave like cards. They're just rectangles, and they don't, like, fly out of a deck or anything like that. And when you don't have the tactility, you lose that heuristic benefit of putting a deck of cards in a video game. I think a similar thing is happening with this game with the board game aspect, where it's like, we've got a board, but every time we do something on the board, we go somewhere else. And every time stuff goes on the board, it doesn't have that, like, clickety-clackety, I'm moving a thing around on a board thing. And some of that is achieved through sound effects that are missing. The strategy layer of this game looks pretty interesting to me. It's the type of board game I like. I think it's going a little bit too heavy on the story, and it's getting in the way of getting to the crunch of the board game. I like particularly like Stonemaier games like Scythe and Wingspan and games like that, where there's like a big possibility space within the game, but you're doing some simple action selection. Really like that kind of game, and that seems like that's what's going on here. But yeah, just lots of strange UX decisions. 2 movement. -1 for each front of this car. No additional effects. Adjacent cars weigh half as much. Okay. Okay, that adds passenger capacity. Okay, so there is a reason to want that. Yeah, I see. I understand.
Whoa, she's a heavy one, all right. Think we should toss a train car or lighten her up?
Okay, so we can get rid of stuff. But I can also put that
Sorry, partner.
there.
That's all the favor I could muster.
Okay.
I'm sure more help will come.
You don't have enough possibility of undoing stuff in this. It's too complex to not have an undo. Yeah. It's just too complex and crunchy to not have an undo. You can put something on and then take it off by throwing it over here. But why can I put it here and then I can't put it back here? It doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna wrap it up on this one. I don't feel like we've spent enough time with it to really get the crunch of the strategy bit of the game. But yeah, I don't know. I hope this does well with the people who like it. I think there are some easy wins here in terms of just making this feel a bit more physical and making sure I can put stuff back, because I think locking in your choice and then saying, well, if you want to take that back off, you have to throw it away is really weird. Like, I don't know why you would make that decision. And again, in terms of replicating the UX of playing a board game, most people, if you're sitting around with a table with them and you take a thing and then it's still your turn and you go, oh, sorry, I changed my mind, can I put that back? Anyone who tells you can't do that is going to be a dick that no one wants to play games with, right? So right now, the game is replicating the experience of playing this game as a board game with someone who's really mean and won't let me put something down and then put it back over there. So lots of things there to reflect on in terms of just what parts of a board game are we trying to replicate, and the sort of a bit of missing tactility there, I think, is the biggest problem. And then, yeah, just the order of how we experience stuff in that story mode feels a little bit out of whack with what type of game it is. Taking multiple building of trains to get to the point where we actually do the route bit, which seems like it's actually the meat of the game. Seamus, this is like an interesting lecture today. Yes, that's like that's such a Barnum statement, isn't it? So you could take it either way.